I am Amy.
And I'm Sam.
And I am also Sam.
And I'm Jocelyn.
And we're bad at watching movies.
But we're good at fighting zombies, eating spicy peppers, and collaborating.
Yay! Especially
so-
the eating spicy peppers part.
Yes.
Okay.
She doesn't sweat at all.
Welcome to LA, baby.
Are you kidding me?
Are we bad at watching movies?
So we have some special guests. If you guys just want to go ahead and introduce yourselves, who you are, what you do, how we know you, all of that fun stuff.
Hi, my name is Sam Block, and this is my lovely basement assistant, Joss, and we are of the podcast Club Chainsaw, where we like to talk about horror, haunts, and Hollywood with creatives and comedians like you two.
Ooh. Yes, and so we know each other through kind of a convoluted way. If you listen to Club Chainsaw, we have recurring character Karina, who is my best friend, whose house I break into to play horror video games. Knows Sam from Bad at Watching Movies podcast and Sam from Club Chainsaw. It could get a little confusing because there's multiple Sams.
Should I be Scary Sam? Should I be Sam?
You'll be Scary Sam. She knows both Scary Sam and
Sam.
okay, we have Spooky Sam and regular Sam. She knows both of them. Since she has an abundance of Sams with podcasts, she connected us so that we could be Sams all on one podcast together. So that's the beautiful story of friendship, Sams, and podcasts that brought us together.
Woohoo.
Thank you, Karina.
Yes, thank you, Karina. Well, thanks for being on, you guys. We're really excited to collab with you guys. In this episode, we're going to be discussing the 1998 movie Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island.
It is a classic.
Yes.
So here at Bad at Watching Movies, we watch some of our favorite movies, good or bad. We talk about everything from scenes to characters, and we always have something to laugh about.
Yeah, we do. So the summary of the movie from IMDb reads, the mystery gang reunite and visit Moonscar Island, a remote island with a dark secret. Daphne wants more than a villain in a costume, and they get more than they ever expected.
It's true.
So this is like
yeah.
the first in a tradition of Scooby-Doo movies where the monsters are not a man in a mask, which
yeah,
I really
it's a
appreciate.
Big change, yeah. And as a kid, I remember watching this and just being terrified, honestly, because I was not expecting it. Because I watched the show all the time, every day after school, and then when I saw this movie, I was like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, same. I was a big watching Scooby-Doo, Where Are You on Boomerang, and the new Scooby-Doo movies, and Pup Named Scooby-Doo, and oh my god, what's the more recent one? What's New Scooby-Doo? I was always into all of those, and so this was such like a cultural moment. Like watching it again, I was like, oh my god, like the cultural reset when they try to pull off the zombie's mask, and he's a real zombie, was just like
mind blown. Like,
yes.
5-year-old me, 10-year-old, I don't know how old I was.
Yeah.
I was just
exactly.
What? Excuse me. So yeah, I guess next we'll just talk about a couple characters. So the first member of the gang is Fred, who's voiced by Frank Welker. I wanted to mention him just because he's voiced the character since 1969. Like he has been Fred since the inception of the show, which I think is crazy and really, really cool.
The next character is Daphne, played by Mary Kay Bergman. Sam notes that she was in South Park, Snow White in the 90s.
Yeah, for when like Disney 90s, remember they started like bringing all the princesses and people together, like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and stuff, where they're like, oh, they're all together and they hang out, and so they needed a voice for White, and she was her, I guess, in the 90s because that movie came out in like the 30s. So not going to use the same Snow White. So next we've got Velma. This is played by BJ Ward. I just noted that she's voiced for Hanna-Barbera again, like since the beginning, just like Frank Welker. So she's just like a big Hanna-Barbera voice. If you've seen a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, her voice is in it.
Next is Scooby, played by Scott Innes. Voices Scooby in the made-for-TV movies and the live action. So
I love the live action movies. I know that can be controversial.
I agree. They have a special place in my heart. It's like a different chapter of my heart than this movie, but
I also thought it was interesting because Frank Welker does Scooby a lot, and I thought it was interesting I didn't do enough time to like research into the whys of all the cast, because I also noticed Casey Kasem isn't doing Shaggy in that, but then I was like, when did he retire from voice acting? I didn't do any research about any of those. So those are just some fun questions I have about the voice acting.
Who are these people? Why are you not the OG?
Why did they make these decisions?
There's a higher caliber. This one is not 20 minutes. It's an hour and 15.
Yes.
Let's see who else do we want to go over. Shaggy, who in this one is Billy West, who plays Bugs Bunny in Space Jam, the OG Space Jam. There is no other Space Jam. We don't need to talk about that. And then like a lot of the main characters from Doug. I don't know if you watched Doug growing up, but I loved that show.
The next is Simone Lenore, played by Adrienne Barbeau, a Broadway star and the original Rizzo for Grease.
That's crazy. I feel like there's a lot of Broadway people in voice acting now.
Yeah.
Like, there's a ton of them. But when I saw that, I was like, the OG Grease cast, and you're doing Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, like they got heavy hitters.
Yeah.
And can I just say, Simone is a classy lady.
Yes.
She really
I don't
is.
think I noticed that as a child. I was like, wow, your clothing's on point. You own this little mansion. You have your own island.
And
Yeah, she owns a
approximately
whole
like 26 to
island.
30 cats.
Yeah, I'd like to, yeah.
Goals.
Yeah, I want to be. That's the only person I want to be.
Yeah.
Next we have Lena Dupree. I wanted to mention her because she's voiced by Tara Strong. Tara Strong voices like every cartoon character ever, like Tommy Pickles, Bubbles from the Powerpuff Girls, Timmy Turner. So I feel like if you've watched a cartoon, you've heard her voice.
Yeah.
So like I've recently discovered that people are like weirdly horny for her, which I didn't know because
Oh,
at my work
Tara.
we interviewed her for something and posted it to Twitter, and oh my god, the thirsty
People-
replies. I was just like, oh, people will be excited because she's a popular voice actress, and I was like, oh no, they're excited for other reasons.
There's a woman behind that voice.
Yeah, and she's wearing a very low cut shirt. I learned a lot about the voice acting fan base that day.
Oh my gosh. I mean, she's a pretty woman.
Yeah. And then the last character we'll talk about is Snakebite, actually voiced by Mark Hamill.
Yeah,
Snakebite
another-
Scruggs was my favorite character of this whole movie.
I love that he like. I feel like, is he supposed to be like a red herring character or something? Because after it finished, I was like, why is he here?
Right.
What was
the
That's
point
how
of
I feel.
him?
I'm like, I think they just wanted to, throw us.
Yeah,
off
Mark
the
Hamill just wandered
map.
into the studio, and they're like, oh crap, we got to give him a
Gotta have
character.
him.
Oh crap. Yeah. Okay, so that's all the characters. So we start the movie in kind of a creepy castle. It's a stormy, rainy night.
Yes.
And it's kind of panning through the castle.
It's like
you
very
know.
classic Scooby-Doo episode. Like, okay, we know what we're in for. It's going to be the regular shenanigans that we always see, which is
Right.
a great way to start a movie when you're going to introduce a twist to a series.
And I have a note that says, this castle does not look cozy to be in.
No,
Castles are not cozy, you know? They're very like
they're cold.
and-
Yeah.
A lot of stone.
Yeah, drafty.
Yeah.
I don't think there's indoor plumbing. So like, and if there is, why would you go to a you know, it's going to be sitting there. It's not,
Probably pretty
it's not a good
stinky,
place
too,
to live. I don't love
to
it.
be honest. Yeah.
But there's like a green-horned monster that is chasing them. It feels very like classic Scooby-Doo. And then we get our first chase montage of the
Yeah.
movie, and we get 3 of these. And
Yes.
I love that it is the Scooby-Doo theme song with a little twist. It's a nice cover.
Yeah.
For some reason, I wrote down it was very important to me that the first monster was named Mr. Beeman, and he was a real estate agent who was using ink to be green molds, and I was really excited about that.
Yeah, that like, and Velma has to explain it. Like, oh, we thought it was mold. It's actually green ink. Which I don't know. Would you get those two confused? Maybe.
I'm wondering if he was trying to like get a better price on the castle or something
Yeah, and
like
I'm
that.
like, wait, hold
I
on.
wanna know some
Yeah.
more.
Spin-off movie about Mr. Beeman. I need to know more.
I want to know more. Like, how did competing realtors? It's a reality show.
Yes.
And so Scooby is a klutz, and so is Shaggy, and this is always how they end up catching the bad guys. So it is no surprise that they get into some trouble and then catch the bad guy.
Yeah.
And Velma knows exactly who it is. So, and then it cuts to Daphne, and she is now a time reporter. She has a show called Coast to Coast with Daphne Blake.
Yep. Very popular.
Which-
It's on their second season, so it's a hit. And Fred is the producer of the show.
I grew up watching a paranormal show with my dad. Well, not watching, it's a radio show called Coast to Coast Radio, where it was literally like some guy would call in and be like, I saw a werewolf in my yard. So I was kind of excited about the show name. I don't know if it's supposed to be an homage to Coast Radio with like Art Bell, but
I hope so. It must be. I feel like it has to be. If they're both about like spooky stories,
exactly.
it's gotta be.
On the flip side, my first initial note was hate that pink lipstick on Daphne. So we had very
It's
different reactions.
weird.
It is weird.
It's yeah.
It doesn't contrast well with her skin. Like it's oh my god. Throughout my notes, I'm still hate that lipstick. Like that's just like I was like, I hope she changes lipsticks later, and she doesn't because it's a fucking cartoon. And I was like,
No. But I think I think by the time we get to the next movie, they fix her lipstick. I'm pretty
Thank
sure.
God.
And let's hope they give Ascot back, because no Ascot, he does try it on in the mirror.
And then they steal it
Yes.
and I'm like,
It's a need.
Fred,
It's
come
part
on,
of the
man.
attire. Yeah.
it's
A
your
real man
signature
would wear it.
style.
No, I enjoy that, like, we get to check on where everyone from Mystery Inc. is, like, at this point in their life. Velma owns a bookstore, a mystery bookstore.
Yeah.
I wrote in my notes also, unrealistic. Shaggy and Scooby would never be cops. But then
True.
They wouldn't narc.
Yeah, I also wrote they would never narc, but then I wrote, oh wait, they're getting high on their own supply, and so then it became realistic.
Yeah, well, at first I was like, oh, they're like, I forgot this part of the movie. He's like a drug sniffing dog, and then he pulls out cheese, and I was like, oh, yeah, okay, this makes sense. Like they're taking contraband, smuggled food.
Then they get fired for eating all of it. I was like, okay.
Yep.
Following you pulled me back in, Hanna-Barbera.
Exactly.
I'm not mad at you.
And then Fred starts to gather the gang together. It's not like a secret to any capacity. I mean, he calls Velma, he calls everyone, and they're like, here we go, we're gonna get together. And a random note thing is that it's Daphne's birthday, and they all surprise her, and I forget that on later in the movie. I was like, oh yeah, it was Daphne's birthday. It wasn't a big deal, I guess.
Yeah,
that was like not a like Chekhov's gun or anything. They're like, no, it was just her birthday.
It's just her birthday.
It's never gonna come up again. We just wanted to celebrate.
Yeah.
she even forgot. She made a note. She was like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot it was my birthday too.
Yeah.
So maybe no one.
Man, she had a wild ass birthday. The whole movie takes place over like one day.
Yeah.
That's a great birthday, actually.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
gonna solve a mystery. So
Mhm.
No, I remember being surprised because, they embark on their trip together. They show a montage of them checking out in New Orleans, their first stop, all these haunted houses. And then they say, like, once they get the lead from Moonscar Island, they're like, well, it's the best lead today. I'm like, today?
yeah, how many
That
did
was
you
all
do?
today?
Yeah. There's like a whole montage of them capturing like 5 or 6 people, like
Yeah.
doing illegal things. Here's the thing that I don't understand is how are there this many people committing crimes in like mascot costumes? Like how?
That's a good question.
And in one city too.
Yeah.
The guy who
Wow.
runs like New Orleans only mascot store is like so rich.
He's like the wealthiest person.
When Daphne was on her show, before they embark, the co-host says something like, oh, you almost got sliced up by that sea monster. And that made me think, I was like, are there actual stakes? Like, if they don't pull off the mask, will this guy kill them?
Is someone gonna die? Yeah.
Is someone going to die if they
This
don't
guy in a
solve it?
mask with a knife. Before we get into the actually on the zombie island part, one of my notes was as a kid watching this, like this and Witch's Ghost do really well with the whole like will they won't they with Daphne and Fred thing, where it's like for some reason they don't want to make them like an official couple in any of the movies, so they're always just like, are they into each other? They won't admit it. They flirt with other people, but why do they always pair off together when they flirt? And it's just like when I was a kid, I was just like, they need to get together. Like it had a chokehold on me.
Well, especially in this one where they give them other possible love interests, and you're like, oh, wait, really? Are they gonna like?
Yeah.
I never knew I needed them together until I saw them apart.
It really works. It works when you're like 6 and you're like, I need them to date. I don't know why I'm so invested in these two.
They go on their little montage of trying to get actual ghosts, but they don't find them. They're all in mascots. And they meet Lena, who tells them that this island has an actual ghost. So they're very intrigued. It's called Moonscar Island, and a pirate named Moonscar haunts the place.
Yeah, but also like Lena just walking up to a bunch of random strangers, like, "Oh, I just overheard you talking about spooky places." I'm like, she's bold.
She is bold.
Lena's bold.
Having been to New Orleans exactly once, like there are so many spooky places around that I feel like if you overheard someone being like, man, we're not getting any good ghosts, that a local would be like, well, hold on, here's a list of places with ghosts.
I've got,
like, I did a ghost tour of New Orleans, and boy, they got a whole lot of ghosts within walking distance of each other.
Okay, but how many of them are a man in a mask who also has a knife?
You know what? I didn't ask. I felt a little rude to ask the tour guide when he went all the effort of showing us all these. And some of the places, I mean, the one, oh my God, I can't remember. The lady who's a bad guy in American Horror Story Coven, her house has atrocious energy. Like, I'm like, no, there's definitely ghosts there. I don't want to go near it.
Marie Laveau, the Queen of New
Marie
Orleans.
Laveau, and then yeah.
But also, like, the fact that they're like, okay, we're going to follow this lady onto an island where they have to take a ferry where we, like, drive our car onto a boat. Like, you're not going to get off this island easily. If this is a trap.
And they just go for it. They're not scared of anything, I guess.
Except for Shaggy and Scooby, who are so scared of everything that it just circles back around to them also not being scared of anything.
Exactly. I was like, wow, they're really like these people mean a lot to them. Like if they're willing to go through exposure therapy over and over and over again of being terrified. And then Fred is also kind of crushing on Lena. So
okay, also I know Lena's supposed to work for Miss Lenoir, but they're also married in my mind. Like, okay, you just live together for forever.
For eternity. That's kind of
Okay.
gay.
It's a little gay. You
It
just
does
cook for this
feel-
lady. Okay. They're domestic partners.
Yeah, like gay
Yeah.
marriage wasn't legal, so they just went through the really binding ceremony of becoming werecat ladies together. I guess the next logical step.
So Lena invites them to the island to have a look around. And just a note, Scooby and Shaggy find a po' boy shop, and the guy makes them like the biggest sandwich ever.
yes.
He's just like piling it on, but Scooby gets
Eats
more.
all of it, yeah.
Gets more of the
Except
sandwich
for one
than
pepper.
Shaggy does.
One pepper.
I think that was the first time I noted that the movie was making me hungry.
Oh my god, yeah, my note.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, hold on. Padme muted it. Hold on.
Kidding. Cat mute.
We were muted by a cat, just like on the beautiful island full of many cats.
Yes. Moonscar Island should just be Cat Island. Let's be real.
Yeah. Oh, we were gonna say between my notes alternate between me being like I hate Daphne's lipstick and also I am so hungry right now. Oh my god, this movie is making me hungry.
Yes, because they eat like 8 times.
They
Like
And it's all
this
like
is
really
ridiculous.
yummy New Orleans food. I'm like,
Yeah.
I want gumbo.
A list of some things they
Gumbo.
ate: beignets, gumbo, crawfish boil,
Yeah, po' boys.
po' boys.
Oh boys. Peppers.
Peppers.
And more peppers.
On the way to the island, is that the first time they meet Scruggs, who is voiced by Mark Hamill?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as Jacques gets introduced, I was immediately like, Jim Cummings is voicing this guy, and then had to look it up immediately.
Who is this?
Yeah, I was like, no, this has to be Jim Cummings doing a bad Cajun accent. Hold on. And I was right.
Correct.
But then that's also spoiled that Mark Hamill was in it for me because I don't think I would have voice ID'd Mark Hamill as Snakebite Scruggs because
Yeah, I had no idea it was him,
blended
and I was
in.
like, oh, okay. Yeah, he just
Luke
becomes
Skywalker.
part of- Yeah, Luke's here? Okay. May the force be with you, and maybe you'll catch that catfish. So
Yeah.
we find out that Scooby, is this when Scooby and Shaggy they fall in, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because a catfish is like taunting them.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a catfish taunting Scooby.
Named Big Mona, who
Big
is
Mona.
maybe my second favorite character in the movie behind Snakebite Scruggs.
I love Big Mona. She's a legendary catfish, the biggest one
Very
you've ever
sassy.
seen. So Shaggy and Scooby they fall in, and there are gators in this bayou, or in the swamp, and it's like they might get eaten.
Yeah.
Is it going to happen in Scooby-Doo? Are we going to finally see some bloodshed? No. They're saved. They're saved by Snakebite, and he has a pet pig, and I love that he
Yeah.
has a pet pig.
More of
I
like
did
a
write down,
hawk.
do pigs really hunt catfish?
I know.
I
That's
was
what I was
like,
wondering,
wait, this is so random.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he says he can like sniff out the catfish, and I was like, oh my gosh, get this pig on MTV.
Move over, truffle pigs. We
Yeah.
got catfish pigs.
Catfish pigs. Oh, and then we find out a little bit more about Morgan Moonscar, and he was the captain of a band of pirates, and
Yeah.
the island is named after him, and he has a moon scar, the shape of a moon on his
Yeah.
creepy little
Very
eye
clever.
scar.
Very clever.
I like
That's
that
such a
they
cool
didn't.
name.
It's a really cool
They
name.
didn't like go out of the way to point it out. They weren't like, he's got a moon scar, because like only like halfway through the movie was this like, oh, it's called that because he's got a moon-shaped scar on his face. Like,
Yeah,
it was a detail you had to notice instead of them being like, here it is, his moon scar.
yeah.
Yeah, they arrive on the island and they start driving to the house, and it is a really beautiful house. It's a beautiful piece of property. The landscaping's fabulous. Bo does a great job. Who's the landscaper? They meet Miss Lenore, the house owner, and she's not very happy at their arrival. She's a little grumpy.
Yeah, Miss Lenoir is like, why did you bring a dog to my island, first of all? Because Scooby knocks her over. Scooby's, first of all, he's chasing everything. He's ruining all of the landscaping. Literally knocks this woman over who already doesn't like dogs. So I'm like, if I were her, I already would have been like, you need to leave. Bye.
Yeah.
Oh my god, Scooby needed to get it together. Like he just every time he saw the cats, it was like, I gotta go. He heard the Kill Bill sirens in his head, and it was just like, Scooby, it's just this one thing, man. You
Just
are
hone it
sentient enough
in.
to work a camera. You can like rein back the cat chasing.
Exactly. Like, you know how to assemble a full ass sandwich. I think you can hold off from chasing cats for 5 minutes,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. Yeah, they also meet Bo, who, like I said, he's the new gardener. He's upset at Scooby because he's basically uprooted all of his plants that he just planted. Yeah. So a line by him is he's looking at his plants and he goes, "Oh darn." And then Scooby and Shaggy are eating spicy peppers in the kitchen, and they are just absolutely sweating. Chugging the water, sweating it out.
Classic Scooby-Doo, eating way more than any human could in one sitting.
Yeah.
But also, like, gumbo takes hours. So I feel like if I was Lena, I'd be like, these guys are eating all the gumbo I worked so hard on.
Yeah, she's so chill about it. She's like, yeah, eat all the gumbo you want.
Right,
I'm like,
she just lets them into the kitchen. I was like, you should just have like a couple snacks, guys.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like you could have like, there's like a Cliff Bar you can have that. Not the nice gumbo that's literally sitting on the stove. Like
there's not going to be any left for Mrs. Lenoir. Pretty soon into getting there, they see their first evidence of a ghost, right?
Yes. Yeah, they have like there's a chill. They feel a chill, Shaggy and Scooby. And then all of a sudden, etched into the wall is "Get Out."
Yeah.
Ooh, it's so spooky.
Daphne freaks out after this and tells Fred to start filming. She's like brushing her.
She's so stoked. Yeah.
Ready to go for the filming. And then while they're filming, there's another gust of wind, and then "Beware" shows up at the bottom. So it's "Get Out, Beware."
Ugh, they catch it on camera.
They do catch it.
It cracks me up that they're like, wait, Fred, enhance. And somehow on his video camera, he can enhance and see the ghost.
Yeah, I was like, what?
Like, let me turn on the ghost detection mode.
Like, not realistic at all.
I'm like, what editing software? Like, what is happening? How did they do this? They're all rich kids, so maybe like really good technology. I don't know, but
yeah, I got that Daphne Blake money.
Exactly.
And then very shortly, Velma's like, hold on, let me deface this historical house. Continues scraping down the wall to find like the site of a pirate ship. But everyone walks in and is like, what did you do?
I'm glad someone was mad. I was like, if this like movie is just like, oh, it's fine. Like, oh, you found another clue. But no, she walks in, she's like, what the hell are you doing in my kitchen?
Yeah, they're like, I just told you how historical this place is. Oh my God. One note I have, I can't remember when exactly it happens in the scene, but like something scary happens to Scooby and Shaggy, and Velma's like, the guys. And I wrote, the guys, Velma says about a man and his dog.
Yeah. I mean, it says maelstrom on the wall, and then we piece together very quickly because Simone knows everything about everything.
Yeah,
that the house was built partially from parts of the pirate ship, and that was the name of the pirate ship.
Yeah,
the Maelstrom.
Okay, we did skip over the part where the Velma levitates, and then Daphne's like, "This keeps getting better and better." Velma's like, "From where you're standing," and I'm like, "Oh my God, that's gay, homosexual moment."
Scooby and Shaggy are outside eating some hot peppers. They're sweating a lot, so they're still eating these peppers.
Yeah, learn your lesson though, guys.
But thankfully, Big Mona is back. My second favorite character, the fish. Yeah. And my first favorite character, Scruggs, is after her.
He's got like a very straightforward goal for a character. Catch fish.
Fish. This is when Shaggy and Scooby are running, right? And they fall into a big hole that I am dead certain is a grave.
Yes. It's literally a perfect rectangle that's so deep. Like, what else would it be for?
And there's a skeleton arm too in there, so I think it could be a grave. So then there's like this green swirling like cloud over the pit, and then it kind of wakes up that skeleton arm, and it's Moonscar. He has come to life
as a zombie. Which I don't know, like if you're already viewing this movie as like, oh, the gang always figures out like who did it and what technology they used to do these crazy effects. I'm like, how would they pull this off? Like giant magic sky green glow? Like no way. No one's got the budget.
No.
Even Miss Lenoir.
Yeah.
And so it's Moonscar, and he starts to go after Scooby and Shaggy. They jump up pit, run away. Moonscar goes after them. And then they happen to run into the gardener, which is a little suspicious. He just kind of happens to be there. So
digging a huge hole. Yeah. And then Velma's like, you're really suspicious. She's like, what were you digging that hole for? An elephant? Like, what are you planting that you'd need that big of a giant hole? Like, which point taken, you know?
Yeah, he doesn't even give an excuse. He's just like, and then goes and looks at his like tiny pots of plants, and he's like,
yeah,
obviously these tiny plants go in there, Velma.
He helps Velma, and she's like, okay, but you're still a suspect.
Yeah, she's like, I still don't like you.
I love her. I love her conviction. She's very just like, no, you're still a suspect. I don't care. Like,
And this is the moment when I wondered who's taking care of Velma's bookstore. or if it's closed.
That's a good question. I didn't even think about that.
There's like a whole episode. It's a whole other
We'll consult
short.
the evidence. Yeah.
I like during this part when they tell Miss Lenoir that she's got zombies on property, and she's just like, oh dear.
Oh.
This woman is not phased by anything, and I'm like, either she's suspicious or like she's just used to this like spook
like,
stuff all
this
the
is
time.
Typical Saturday night in New Orleans, baby.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want from me?
So Lena and Simone invite them to stay the night because it's getting kind of late.
Oh,
Fairy
spooky.
is like not running or something like that. So they end up staying the night. Just kind of a funny Shaggy moment is he's in the mirror looking at his like beard, like his like 3 hairs, and he goes, I could really use a trim. And he does this once, and then he's like, looks good.
Good to go. Yeah. Animators are like, we're not actually changing the way
Yeah.
his face looks.
He tries on another green shirt and says, I'm going to turn some heads tonight.
Yes, he has like
Yeah, they're
30
funny.
green shirts.
Like really speaking to like how much of a moment this movie was in my life, I remember like my dad's friends visiting and we were talking about this movie and his friend being like, it's so funny when he opens up his suitcase and it's all green shirts. Like, I'm like, we were just all talking about this movie. But also I love beyond the whole Shaggy gags, when Lena's showing Fred and Daphne their rooms, and Lena's like, Fred, your room has a beautiful view of the moon, and it's so gorgeous and nice. And then she's like, and you go here, Daphne.
Yeah.
It's around to say thank you, and Lena's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's just... And they animate it too, like to make her look so seductive. Like there's like the sun setting, and like it zooms in on her face, and it's just like her eye and her cheek, and you like see the orange glow, and she's like, "Okay, Fred," and then she goes, "Yeah, you're Daphne."
Yeah, just keep your room, Daphne. But speaking of the animation, this is also when I noted, like, I think when they're still outside in the sun setting, the animation quality just suddenly like jumps. Like the first half of the movie is very like, you could tell it's cell animation, you can see the separation from the backgrounds and the animation, and then all of a sudden they're like, we're doing shadows, we're doing color palettes, it's nighttime, and this is where all our money is going.
So when they're back at their house and in their rooms, is this when he's cutting his little beard when Shaggy sees a ghost in the mirror?
Yeah.
Yes, they see a ghost in the mirror, and the ghost says, "Get away!" And they're like, "Oh my gosh!" So they run. Yeah. Shaggy and Scooby, in typical fashion, scamper to Fred, jump in his arms, and then Fred kind of stumbles out, and they fall on Simone. And of course, Simone's fucking pissed again. Like, this is the second time that they've fallen on top of her, and she's about done.
I don't blame her.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And then we find out it's like a Confederate soldier. So now we have pirates and Confederate soldiers on the same island causing mischief, and they're all coming back from the dead.
There was a lot more, because when I was a kid, you're not as like politically tuned in, but watching it this time, I'm like, okay, so this house is a plantation. There's Confederate soldiers. I'm a little stressed out right now. What's going on here? But also I want to note that before they clamber into Fred's arms, he was deciding whether or not to wear his ascot, and both Sam and I made notes that were like, why no ascot?
Honestly, it's a classic look. It looks good, Fred. He just goes, nah, bad choice.
Bad choice, Fred. Bad choice. It's dinner time, but Scooby is told that he has to eat in the kitchen. Yeah, because there's like no dogs at the table, so Scooby and Shaggy go and eat in the kitchen, but then of course there's cats in the kitchen, so then it's another chase montage of them chasing cats.
I love how sassy the little kitties are in this. Whenever Scooby gets stuck, there's always one like sticking its tongue out and like, yeah, me, and their little sounds are so cute. Yeah. I'm like, I love all the cats on this island.
It's also very realistic cat behavior, because when my family had a dog, we'd bring it to my grandparents' house, and her cats would bully my parents' dog all the time, like, because the dog, even though the dog's bigger than the cats, she was like scared of the cats, so she would just be like blocked from going into rooms, because like the cat would be sitting in the doorway like, take it in here. So very realistic cat dog interactions, I will say.
Yeah, so after all of that, Scooby and Shaggy are basically told, go eat outside, you're no longer welcome in the house. But they get worried because there is a dead guy walking around outside, so understandably they're a little nervous, so they end up eating in the van.
Classic.
Yeah.
Literally, they get handed a whole pot of crawfish and just get to eat it in their van.
Yeah, I was like, that sounds actually really nice. Like, you don't have to interact.
Yeah, that would be the return of the "this movie's making me hungry" notes.
Yeah, we come back. Now it's time for crawfish
and biscuits.
Oh my gosh! And Scooby eats all of it again.
Yes. Scooby doesn't save any for Shaggy. Yeah, and the cats actually come out and they're taunting them on top of the van as well. So they have to drive away. It's kind of like the middle of the forest.
Yeah.
Like even scarier.
Yeah, I
than,
was like, this. They're not a smart duo.
There's
Like,
a
if
reason
you're trying
Daphne
to-
drives the van normally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that makes sense. The Mystery Machine has off-roaded too many times. I'm very impressed with it.
I know, for like a van from the 70s, it is in good shape to handle the stuff it goes through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like how has it been kicking for this long? Like, I hope parts are cheap.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I would have stayed in front of the mansion with the cats on top of the car, just ate my crawfish, stare at the cats.
Yeah, like
they're
what are
not-
they
if
gonna
they
do?
can't get in. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't got thumbs. Scooby's the only one who knows how to work machinery, apparently. So like, it's fine.
And then so now there's more zombies. They come out of the water with more moon magic that comes
Yeah.
down from the sky. And Scooby and Shaggy run, obviously, and they run into Bo this time
Yeah.
again, and he has a lantern.
Just a note too, that before that happens, they're eating like the hot peppers and they stick their head into the swamp water and start drinking.
So nasty.
No.
Oh my God.
It's awful. But it looks so clear when it's, like, under the water. It looks like
There's
crystal
no way
clear,
it's
but I was
that
like,
clear.
there's no way that is
Mm-mm.
water.
No, not at all.
No.
Because the zombies are in that water. It's got
Yeah.
zombies in it.
There's
Yeah.
it's at least dead people water. So
Yeah.
And the beautiful array of zombies we get tourists, we get racist Civil War ghosts, we get little sailors.
Yep.
Yeah, I did write down, oh no, racist zombies after the Confederate reveal. Well, they cut back to them, everybody
yes.
having dinner, and then Fred's like, we should get to the mystery of why Lena's pie's so good. And then Daphne just goes, you are so corny. And I wrote, just
Yeah.
fuck him already. Just fuck him already, Daphne.
honestly,
You know,
yes.
Just yeah. So the crew then hears more yelling outside because I believe that's Shaggy and Scooby running away from the zombies. And then they go outside and investigate, and then they also run into Bo as well. So
Mhm.
Bo's just kind of around doing like suspicious stuff. I
Yeah,
think.
he's professional suspicious guy at their manner. I do also like when Daphne's like, I'll go with Bo because she's being all jealous, and then Velma's like, no, I'll go with Bo, and I'm like,
Yeah.
wingman moment. Yeah,
Yes.
Velma.
Yeah,
She's here with us.
Like, yeah, and she like tells Fred like, "Don't worry, I'll keep my eye on
Yeah.
him." I'm like,
I
yes,
got this.
Velma. And then more zombies. So a zombie reaches out, touches Daphne, and she freaking flips him over her shoulder. And I'm like, oh, this is the first time we realize Daphne is no longer just like the damsel from the series that we all know. Like, she has learned some moves and she is not afraid of anything.
Daphne has a TV show and knows Krav Maga.
Yes, I'm like, she could have done this by herself and she'd be fine.
Yeah.
I did also note, I meant to go look this up before we were filmed, but there's at least a couple times in the film that seem to reference the original Scooby-Doo Where Are You theme song, because the hand reaching for Daphne's shoulder is, I like have a very vivid memory of like, watching it every single day. So I was like, oh my God, that's from the theme song. And then later on, there's a scene where like bats come flying out of a cave that is like done in the same way as the bats flying out of a castle in the theme song. And I meant to go look up to see if there was more references. But those two stood out to me as I was like, this is just like the opening sequence of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? So I just wanted to shout
The
those
classic,
out.
yes.
Yeah.
So they find that zombie. Daphne kind of just goes, "Hi-ya," and like flips him over. And then they start to try to take his mask off. Because like Fred is like, it's just a masked guy, because Fred is skeptical still. He does not believe that there's actual ghosts on this island. And they're trying to pull it off, and they end up pulling his head off. And then they're kind of like bouncing around like a hot potato. And it's really,
Poor guy. Like, this poor zombie. Like, could you imagine your head being tossed around? Like, people who are screaming at you, who just like grabbed your jaw and were like up and down and just like harassing you. Like, poor zombie.
yeah.
Especially after the reveal that the zombies are like the good guys trying to get them off the island. He's like, man, I'm
Yeah.
trying to help you, and you just throw my head around like a baseball. Come on.
Come on. Like, that
on.
is so impolite to just
But
toss
also,
a head.
like, what an iconic moment, though. Like, that was like the moment where it's like, no, the monsters are real this time. And especially as a kid, you're like, oh God, it's so scary, the zombies. But before the zombie reveal happens, when Velma's split up with Bo and he like throws a rock at something, but he does it to detect the quicksand, but he does it in the scariest way possible.
Like, hit her in the head.
Yeah, he's like, hold on, I gotta throw this rock really suspiciously. Like, I'm like, Bo, come on.
Yes,
You're not
and right
helping
after
yourself.
right after she like accuses him too, he's like she's like saying how suspicious he is, then he's like, I'm gonna be really scary now, and it's like, wrong time, guy.
This
Like,
will make you not suspect me.
then we get another montage, and we get the best song ever. It's terror time again.
The original songs for this movie, so good.
Yeah.
They're
Um,
so good.
And then also speaking of iconic shots, right before that sequence starts, when Fred's like filming all the zombies coming out and it cuts to Daphne's like horrified expression. Like, I don't know, that scene just goes so hard. Like the drama where she's just like such like a standout moment from like a kid's film where she's just like
yes, it's
abjectly
real.
terrified.
Yeah.
And then they're like, all right, time for a funky montage.
So Fred, Daphne, Velma, and Bo all find each other during this. I think it's during the montage, right?
Yeah.
They all get reunited. And then we cut to Scooby and Shaggy, and they find dolls in a cave, and they start picking them up. And then when they do, Daphne, Velma, and Fred all start to levitate.
Yeah.
Just like Velma did in kind of towards the beginning.
Yeah, so we're piecing this all together
Yeah.
now. Some sort of ritual going on here with these dolls. And yeah, the poor gang, and like doesn't like Velma end up like punching Bo, and like Daphne's arm is getting flung around, and I'm like, what are they doing with these dolls? Like
they're just smacking the shit out of each other.
And also they're wax, so I feel like the way they're bending them, I'm like, I feel like it'd break apart.
Yeah.
It's magical wax.
It's magic wax.
Magic. It's
when they're all tied up later, because of the voodoo dolls, and the voodoo dolls are exposed to flame, and then you cut to the actual characters and they're like melting like wax. Like I'm like, what is these are some crazy voodoo doll stuff.
And how do you remedy that? Like, if you already start melting, how do you unmelt?
I know, they just snap back to normal. I'm like, I don't think that's how it works.
I think they're disfigured now.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my god.
It's like, I feel like there needs to be some permanent after effects here, or like a spell to undo it or something.
Yeah.
Or at least somebody has to hastily resculpt the dolls.
Yeah. No, I love that. Like, this is when we start finding out, like, oh, for sure, Mrs. Lenoir and Lena are evil. And Lena mentions, like, oh, we weren't gonna waste magic wax on Scooby and Shaggy because they're too dumb. And we're not afraid of them.
Yeah, but like stupid. Like, come on. Even like the doofuses, like either have a plan to have them killed early or like be prepared. Because
didn't they watch the earlier montage where Scooby and Shaggy uncover the origins behind every single monster on accident? Like,
exactly.
Guys,
I was like,
they missed that.
Yeah, they should have looked them up ahead of time.
Yeah.
Who is Mystery Inc?
So they so they run back into the house, and they see Lena under the stairs, and they said that Miss Simone had been dragged away by zombies, but Velma is kind of suspicious. There's no drag marks, there's just footprints on the ground, so she's like, I don't think so. And yeah, we find out that Simone and Lena are evil and they're cat people.
Yeah, they're doing some like evil sort of rituals. We don't really know. It's not a very like distinct religion or like belief. I'm very confused as to what they're practicing exactly.
Yeah, here's the thing, because they say that like, okay, there was a us who worshipped this cat religion. I'm like, wait, so tell me about this cat god. Tell me about your whole religion.
Yeah, I was like, wait, okay, so it's a bunch of white people who moved here and worship a cat god. They're French, maybe? Like, I was, because the characters originally seemed very based to be like typical people who would live in New Orleans, and all of a sudden you get this reveal, they're like, no, they've been here for ages, they worship a cat. I'm like, who are these people?
Yeah, I'm very like, they're like, oh, we were just like settlers who worshipped our cat god. Yeah, and I'm like, who's the cat god? Like,
yeah, hold on, rewind.
Me details.
What's the origin of
they all look like pilgrims. I'm like, I don't think like there were pilgrim people who were like cat gods. That feels very like maybe Egyptian or like, where did there's just so much.
You got like the like Christian pilgrims who are just trying to escape persecution from other kinds of Christianity, and then you've got the cat god worshipping pilgrims who are trying to escape persecution as well. Of course.
Goddamn, high school history class just they always leave this stuff out.
But also during this part where they note that like they killed all the Confederate soldiers and the plantation people and stuff, I'm like, maybe Lena and Simone are good guys. I think we're judging them too harshly.
They're getting rid of people that we don't really need in society.
Yeah.
This is the first time they've really gone for people who are like, no, they're doing a service, you know? Like,
yeah, I was like, I don't think we should be mad she killed all those Confederate soldiers. I don't know.
And then when they talk about how Moonscar, essentially like they were trying to take over the island from the settlers. They force everyone into the swamp and they get eaten by alligators, presumably. And I'm like, that's so dark.
Yeah.
No wonder they're pissed off and like cast a curse on these people. They're like, you literally just killed all of our entire settlement.
Yeah.
But I'm curious who was here before that even. Like, I'm like, you're white settlers. So you also probably like came in here and stole land. So like, are you any better than Moonscar? I don't know.
It's true. There's a lot of historical depths to be delved into the ethics of this entire situation.
when we're being chased, they're being chased, and like we have the full knowledge that this is like real magic, right? And real zombies and real witches, but the camera has fallen into the quicksand and there's no proof for Daphne's TV show.
Nope.
Very
Yeah,
sad.
it's like, even if they get out of it, there's no evidence. It sucks.
Yeah. Just one more thing to note too. So, the reason why they kind of captured them and we're going after the gang, Simone and Lena, we find out it's because every harvest moon they must drain the life force from victims lured to my island to preserve my immortality. So they're basically just like draining.
Yeah, she's Mother Gothel kind of.
Yeah. Felt like that was a little dark too. But
Yeah, just like draining the life force of people.
yeah.
So like if it started like you had to defend your island from these pirates who came, and now like I've been living with my cat wife on this island for hundreds of years and I have to keep this going or else I'm gonna die. You might as well lure these teens here. It's for the greater good.
Yeah, those meddling
Yeah.
kids.
I want to live my happy life. I mean, she has it made, really. Like Cat Island, you're there.
Fancy
you're
house,
alone.
delicious gumbo.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can hire a gardener if you need to.
Yeah, they got it made in the shade.
Then we find out because Scooby and Shaggy are trying to like get off the island. They go to the ferry and they meet Jacques, and we find out that he also is one of these cat people, and he's like fully transformed. Like
Yeah,
looks like
like,
a freaking
scary.
hairy beast. Like I'm terrified.
This is when I was at the time they had just showed Miss Lenoir. She's going after our cat who is knocking over action figures in the corner. But Miss Lenoir and Lena, they're like very like ladylike cats, right? Like they don't have like fur on their faces. They just have regular hair and then like claws. So I'm like, why do they get to be like the fairy captain where they're like a full werewolf? But then right after that, they get extra cat-like and they grow extra hair and get more scary. But I was just like,
Transformed all the way.
yeah, I was
Yeah,
like,
when
why
they're,
don't
like,
the
just
cat
mid.
girls get cool designs?
Yeah.
And then it happens.
More
But I love
hair.
that Lena always still has her like bright blonde hair no matter what. Even when she's
Yeah.
like full on cat monster, it's like here's yellow splat on the head. Like it looks like a weird cat monster in like a wig. It cracks me up.
Did you ever see when they put like the wigs on Build-A-Bears so they have their own fur, but then they have the little wig on top? Kind of like that.
Little,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
pop star ones.
Hannah.
I get it. She's just a Hannah Montana Build-A-Bear.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the real curse.
Yeah.
She's the best of both worlds.
Oh god. Oh, and then we figure out, okay, because they're bad. Yeah, we find out the zombies were just trying to warn them the whole time, and the ghosts. Everyone was just like, hey, get away from this island or you're gonna die. Which, big plot twist, especially I think for kids when you're watching it, you're like, zombies are good. How do I piece that together?
How do I fit that into my childlike morality schema?
Yeah, exactly. Bad guy is supposed to look scary, but scary guy is good.
Yeah.
And then we find out Bo is an undercover cop named Bo Neville, here to investigate the disappearances. So now I wonder, I'm like, oh, he was digging graves trying to find the bodies, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, trying to find proof.
Which
But
then
he
exempts
really
him from being really creepy, I guess.
he really sucks at being an undercover cop though. Like he literally was just like, I'm professional, suspicious guy.
Yeah, he was so suspicious all the
Like,
time.
just everywhere. Like everywhere, all at once.
And you'd think even like maybe Simone and Lena might catch on to him because he's so like,
Yeah.
it would be like, yeah, why are you digging that big hole? We didn't tell you to plant anything over here. Like,
Yeah.
Like early in the movie when Velma tells Miss Lenoir that he's suspicious, and she says like, oh, he had good recommendations. He had a good resume.
yeah.
He's not suspicious.
Also, I want to note something that tickled me in the part where Shaggy and Scooby like run in when everyone's being held captive and they hit the table that has all the voodoo dolls on it, and it makes like a bowling ball, like a bowling pin knocked over sound
I know.
effect. I thought
It's
that
like-
was just such like a random funny thing for them to do.
When their like lives are in danger too. It's just like bowling.
Yeah. Yeah, so they basically they outrun the clock. So Lena and Simone and the boat guy all blow up. The zombies kind of melt. They're able to rest in peace. And the pirate guy, as he's melting, says thank you.
Yeah.
I will say that the cat werewolf melting effect is like pretty scary for a kids movie. Like it's like getting Indiana Jones level there in terms of like face
Yes.
melting.
The creepy, yeah. Quick aging and then like melting of the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just what childhood nightmares are made of. see, yeah, that's pretty much everything kind of starts wrapping up. So like, we're going to go home. We need to get away from the sketchy island.
And it's okay that we don't have a camera because Bo is our evidence and he's
Yes,
going to come on
Bo-
Daphne's
Bo-
show.
Yeah, he's going to be on the show as an interviewee. And Bo and like Velma have like a little moment where they're like, she's kind of,
Well, because I want to kind of write like mystery novels, and she's like, I sell mystery novels.
yeah, she's like, I like detective stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were very like, boo, Velma's lesbian.
I know.
We're
Yeah, I was like,
biased.
that's
Yeah.
wrong.
However, on the flip side, Daphne and Fred do get a little romantic moment at the end for all of us hardcore shippers.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. The cats are on the boat too, so Shaggy and Scooby don't get to escape them.
Which then we get our final encounter with Mona, the catfish, and literally Snakebite. He's caught her like in the net, and Scooby ruins it. Poor Snakebite.
It's a happy ending for Mona, and that's
For
all
Mona.
that really
Yeah.
matters.
Mona
to
gets
me.
to live another
I mean,
day.
it's kind
What
of
is
a
he gonna
happy
do with
ending.
her? Is he gonna eat her? Is he gonna put her on display?
Sell
Like,
her.
it's a legendary catfish. at
What
this
does he
point. You
do with
can't
the
just,
rest
like,
of his
eat it.
life after that? That's his
That's
whole
true.
thing. But also,
He
like, I feel
can't
like it
use
is a
it.
happy ending for Snakebite because now the like annoying ladies are off the island. There's no tourists. It can just be him and his hog and the catfish.
His
He gets the
catfish
whole run of the
sneaking off.
island. No zombies, no suspicious gardener. He can hunt all the catfish his heart wants.
Yeah, he'll be good to go. Him and Mona will play cat and mouse for the rest of their lives.
I wonder who gets the house. So who
I don't
gets
know.
the island?
Burn it down.
Good question.
First.
Yeah, like look, it's
Burn it.
pirate ship, plantation, Confederate hiding place. We
Tours.
just start over.
Overnight
Start
ghost
over.
tours. That's what I
Yeah.
would make money. Get the
Yeah.
realtor, the green inked realtor from the beginning. He can
Yes.
sell it,
Yes.
make a fortune. Perfect.
He's in jail. He's not doing anything anyway.
That's
Yeah,
true.
he's
yeah, he can.
Final thoughts? Anybody?
Well, this definitely, I feel like when I was talking about it yesterday, like of the like, I feel like there's a trifecta of like the Monsters Are Real movies that came out in the same time period. This, the Alien one, I can't remember the title off the top of my head, and Witch's Ghost. And I think this is the one I like the least out of the three, but I respect it for being the one that kind of started this really good era that was very impactful to me as a kid, because I was always very into like monsters and whatnot, and I was big into like all the Hanna-Barbera, here's a group of teenagers and a talking whatever solving crimes, like Speed Buggy, Josie and the Pussycats, the Goober and the Ghost Chasers, all that kind of stuff. So this was like a big era for me, and really like I appreciate, even though Zombie Island isn't my favorite out of the bunch, it is like very important for setting this new era of Scooby-Doo that gave us some really fun creative movies, and also kind of set up a new interpretation of the gang that we now see in more current stuff, especially with Daphne being kind of this like intrepid go-getter who knows karate or Krav
Yes.
Maga or whatever.
Yeah.
So it had a lot of influence on like modern Scooby-Doo.
Pretty much same thing for me though, where I'm like, it's such a like iconic movie because it introduces us, I think for the first time, or one of the first times, of like there's going to be real monsters and real supernatural stuff now that we're going to like address. Some of it's a bit chaotic. Yeah, like we don't know any specifics about this religion, which I think would be the most fascinating part of this whole thing if they delved
Agreed.
into it.
There has to be someone out there who has like
Someone's wrote a fan fiction and I want to read
together.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's got to be like an encyclopedia about this whole thing.
If
Like,
you've written fan fiction about Scooby-Doo Zombie Island, send it to clubchainsaw@gmail.com.
Yes,
Yes.
do it. We want to know every detail because it's so intriguing. Yeah, and then I don't know which one of the four is my favorite, but I'm super stoked to do Witch's Ghost next on your
Yes.
show.
Witch's
So-
Ghost is my favorite. I love Witch's Ghost.
So I
It gave
guess-
us the Hex Girls.
This is when we reveal that this is not a standalone episode. This is a double
Yeah.
feature between our two podcasts. So we will be watching Zombie Island this week, and then next week you can tune into Club Chainsaw for the Hex Girls and
Well,
Witches
yeah.
Ghosts.
Well, for Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost.
but really
But
the
the
Hex Girls
are the feature.
Yeah, they're the main characters.
headliners.
Something I wanted to mention that like I really liked about this movie is that it does not talk down to kids. It allows kids to like experience kind of what a horror movie is, and it like how you mentioned earlier, like they don't say like, wow, he has a scar on his face, that is the moon. It lets you figure those things out. It lets you sit with the idea of being real zombies who are the good guys. It is not talking down to the audience.
Yeah.
And something else, because what you mentioned before about how it's like one of the first times the monsters are real. I know, so there was like kind of an era of Scooby-Doo where it was like Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy-Doo doing things where there was like real monsters, but it was very cartoony, very corny.
Yeah.
Although shout out to Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School,
I was
one
gonna
of
say
my
Ghoul
faves.
School.
So like the monsters are real, but it's very campy and cartoony. Versus this one, it's like treated much more straight horror, as much as you can for Scooby-Doo. Because like
Right.
I remember being scared as a kid of the zombies. Like
yeah.
as watching as an adult, you're just kind of like Scooby-Doo. But like as a kid, it's like, oh my god, because this is like not the little wacky cartoony bad guys you see before. This is like the zombies are scary, the way they die is scary. Like there's that the shot of Daphne looking horrified. Like it's just like they try to actually make it serious, and I feel like you can kind of tell them as the movies keep going, it gets a little less and less serious. Witch's Ghost is pretty serious. The Alien one starts to get a little more unserious, and then from there it starts to kind of go back to the regular, like the equilibrium is restored in terms of the tone of Scooby-Doo. So this one is very like iconic for still being Scooby-Doo, but taking a little more of a serious, like this is a little more straight horror for teenagers and kids, as opposed to being like, oh, look at these silly little ghosts who are like hanging out with Scrappy-Doo.
And it worked. I mean, we're all still here talking about it now.
Yeah.
I feel like they were kind of like, Scooby-Doo's kind of like gonna die off. Like, here's our last hurrah. Let's try to modernize it a little bit. Worked. Like, I love it.
Yeah.
Go back to this. I want this kind of Scooby-Doo again.
Well, everyone I talked to about the fact that we were doing this, everyone was so excited. They're like, oh my God, I love those movies. And I was like, yes. Yeah. Yes.
High quality.
Iconic. Well, thanks you guys for being on. Where can everyone find you? I want you guys to be able to plug yourselves quickly here.
Well, you can find our podcast wherever pods are casted at Club Chainsaw. On Instagram, we're Club Chainsaw, and our website is podbean.com/Club Chainsaw. And if you want to send us any ghost stories or Scooby-Doo fan fiction, email us at clubchainsaw@gmail.com.
We're also looking for any leads on the mysterious red-eyed creature that lives in the bathroom at the Cinema Dome. So I'd like to expand our reach to your listeners as well, because we had a guest on our podcast in a previous week who talked about the mysterious red-eyed creature that lives in the women's bathroom at the the former ArcLight Cinema Dome. I can't find anything online about it, and I'm determined to learn more about this local cryptid. So please send us any leads to clubs@gmail.com.
We have a lot of Northwest listeners, so if listeners out there, help us piece the puzzle together.
Our friend who we had on was an employee of the ArcLight, and we're trying to get in touch with his manager, who would just like be like, sigh, so many women have quit because they saw a red-eyed creature when they were cleaning the women's bathroom at the ArcLight.
Oh my gosh, yeah, so nonchalant. This is a Simone. That's Simone of the ArcLight.
And then also to reiterate what we had said a little bit earlier, to hear more Scooby-Doo adventures, to continue on talking about my personal favorite of this era of Scooby-Doo movies, Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost, tune in to next week's Club Chainsaw episode, where we will have the Bad at Watching Movies crew as our guests in the Club Chainsaw basement. So Sam, did you want to plug your personals at all?
I am a comedian named Sam Block when I'm not doing Club Chainsaw things. Most active on Instagram, so you can find me at Gentle Sam with an N at the end. And where can they find you, Joss?
You can find me inside a haunted castle wearing a mascot costume and decrying these meddling kids for screwing up my tax evasion scheme.
And thank you so much for having us. We really love your show. And so to find something that's both like childhood nostalgia and kid friendly, but also scary, it's like the perfect meeting point for both of our shows.
Yeah, once we all like agreed on Scooby-Doo, and you're like, just to know the excitement of everyone, I was like, okay, this was the right choice. We did it.
Yes. And if you ever want to talk about Under Wraps, please call me.
Yes.
We'll come back for any decom episodes. Spooky decoms, we're there.
Ooh. Yeah, we did. Our first episode ever was Halloween Town, and we'll definitely do the sequels. So
Heck yeah.
Well, thanks for being on. And you all can find us at Bad Watching Movies on Instagram and TikTok. We also have a Patreon if you want to help us out. It's just $1 donation, just to help us with some fees, different things like that. Thanks to you all for listening, and thanks you two for being on. It was really fun. This was a really fun episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
She doesn't sweat at all.
Welcome to LA, baby.
Are you kidding me?
Are we bad at watching movies?